Many argue that if you display excessive arrogance in life, your fall from grace can be swift and harsh. Is this notion factual? Over the years, we've witnessed numerous athletes in various sports come and go, but only a handful etch an indelible mark on our memory. Some leave an enduring legacy through their exceptional achievements, while others tarnish their legacy with unsavory behavior. In the world of sports, victories and defeats are an intrinsic part of the journey. While many enthusiasts turn to Asian bookmakers to wager on their favorite sports, athletes have their ebb and flow. Some opt to explore new horizons beyond their sport, and others tarnish the noble reputation of sports through misconduct. Conor McGregor, the notorious one, a prominent athlete, falls into the latter category. The notorious McGregor has predominantly graced the headlines for all the wrong reasons. While fellow Irish athletes like Katie Taylor ascend to sporting greatness, McGregor's actions have cast a shadow on his legacy, leading to his precipitous downfall. Conor McGregor's ascent to stardom in the world of mixed martial arts is nothing short of remarkable. This Irishman elevated the sport to unprecedented heights, becoming a cultural phenomenon in the process. His influence extended beyond the octagon, thrusting the entire nation of Ireland into the spotlight of MMA. This newfound recognition paved the way for other Irish fighters, including Ian Machado Gary. No one can forget McGregor's electrifying rampage through the UFC featherweight division. His campaign was nothing short of legendary, akin to a warlord's conquest, culminating in the capture of the most coveted crown in the land as he spectacularly dethroned Jose Aldo. Yet, McGregor set his sights even higher. Once ridiculed by fellow fighters, he achieved the unprecedented feat of becoming the UFC's first simultaneous two-division champion and the most prolific pay-per-view draw in MMA history. However, the McGregor we see today is a far cry from the triumphant champion he once was. He has become a mere caricature of his former self. So how did a man who ascended from obscurity to reign as the king of MMA find himself relegated to the role of a court jester? What precipitated McGregor's dramatic fall from grace? Several aspects set Conor McGregor apart from his peers who came before and after him. While BJ Penn was the first fighter to persuade Dana White to grant a shot at becoming a simultaneous double champion, McGregor was the first to accomplish this feat. At UFC 205, he made history by defeating Eddie Alvarez and securing his status as the first simultaneous double champion in the UFC, a moment that remains magical in the annals of MMA history. Furthermore, McGregor's influence extended to persuading the UFC to permit him to cross over into the realm of boxing, where he faced none other than the legendary Floyd Mayweather Jr. For years, the UFC had staunchly opposed allowing its fighters to participate in non-UFC bouts, primarily to mitigate the risk of injuries that could disrupt their fighting plans. Yet McGregor managed to sway the promotion and he ventured into the boxing ring against one of the greatest pugilists in history. However, McGregor's audacious pursuit of victory over Mayweather was a task too insurmountable. Despite being the larger man, he couldn't overcome the odds and suffered a sobering defeat by 10th round TKO. Nevertheless, he pocketed a life-changing sum of around $100 million. This extraordinary windfall not only transformed McGregor's financial standing, but also marked the beginning of a concerning change in his demeanor. After the Mayweather bout, the MMA world was unsure if McGregor would return to the UFC and reclaim his status as the face of the sport. He had been stripped of his featherweight and lightweight titles due to inactivity, while Khabib Nurmagomedov had claimed the lightweight championship in his absence. It was Nurmagomedov's actions that ultimately coaxed McGregor back into the octagon, following a public altercation with his friend Artem Lobov. Lobov, a fellow countryman of Nurmagomedov's, had engaged in derogatory remarks about the Dagestani fighter in interviews. This led to an incident where Nurmagomedov confronted Lobov in a hotel corridor. McGregor's response was swift and furious. He assembled a group and boarded his private jet, embarking on a flight to New York. As a bus filled with UFC fighters, including Nurmagomedov, departed the Barclays Center after promotional appearances for UFC 223, McGregor and his cohorts attacked the bus. In the ensuing chaos, shattered glass from a broken window left Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg hospitalized and off the fight card. McGregor was promptly arrested and sentenced to 5 days of community service, marking the beginning of his encounters with the law. Capitalizing on the escalating hostility between McGregor and Nurmagomedov, the UFC scheduled a headline bout between the two at UFC 229. On an athletic level, this matchup made sense, with McGregor having previously held the title before his inactivity-driven stripping and Nurmagomedov emerging as the new champion. The pre-fight press conferences leading to their clash were marked by McGregor hurling a barrage of personal and religious insults at Nurmagomedov, raising questions about whether his trash talk had crossed the line. However, McGregor failed to disrupt Nurmagomedov's mental fortitude and suffered a convincing submission defeat in the 4th round. Their bout concluded with Nurmagomedov leaping out of the cage to attack McGregor's cornermen, and McGregor retaliating by assaulting one of Nurmagomedov's cousins. This post-fight brawl marred UFC 229 and led to fines and suspensions for both fighters from the Nevada Athletic Commission. While Nurmagomedov managed to rehabilitate his image, McGregor's troubles were only beginning. In early 2019, the MMA world was stunned by headlines accusing McGregor of sexual assault. Days later, he was found guilty of assaulting a fan who had attempted to take a picture with him, destroying the fan's phone in the process. Several months later, video footage emerged of McGregor punching an elderly man in Dublin pubs, allegedly because the man refused a shot of his proper number 12 Irish whiskey. This dark chapter continued as another sexual assault allegation surfaced later that year. Although McGregor was never formally charged in connection with these allegations, his reputation was irrevocably tarnished. He had become a public relations nightmare for the UFC. In 2020, McGregor announced his return to active competition. He presented a polite, soft-spoken persona in an attempt to regain public favor as he prepared to face Donald Cerrone at UFC 246. As expected, he effortlessly dispatched Cowboy in 40 seconds. The MMA world welcomed him back, envisioning another McGregor title campaign with a potential rematch against lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov. However, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic led to global travel restrictions and safety protocols that postponed all UFC events. While the promotion eventually adapted to conduct events with safety precautions, the absence of live crowds deterred the UFC from using McGregor's star power without a gate. He remained inactive while Nurmagomedov suffered a personal tragedy with his father. Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov succumbed to COVID-19. Promising his mother that he would not continue fighting without his father's guidance, Nurmagomedov announced his retirement from the sport after defeating Justin Gaethje at UFC 254. During the time, McGregor's opponent Dustin Poirier was booked for a rematch nearly 7 years after their first encounter, which McGregor had won by knockout in 2014. Despite Poirier's growth as a fighter, he was perceived as a quality yet beatable opponent for McGregor's quest to secure a title fight against Nurmagomedov. Furthermore, McGregor expressed interest in boxing matches with the legendary Manny Pacquiao, and he regarded Poirier, a powerful southpaw, as a mere sparring partner in preparation for the real boxing showdown. However, McGregor encountered a humbling defeat, succumbing to a second-round TKO. In the aftermath of his loss, McGregor pledged to donate to Poirier's charity, the Good Fight Foundation. Regrettably, he failed to fulfill this promise and resorted to the brash trash talk that had initially propelled him to fame. This time, his words lacked the sharp wit and cleverness he had once exhibited. Instead, he appeared volatile, resorting to personal insults, even maligning Poirier's family after the rematch was booked. He went as far as to predict that the Diamond would leave the arena on a stretcher.